So if you've got things going on multiple levels, there's like a cumulativeness that can happen that is bigger than 1 plus 1. It's, 1 plus 1 equals 5 is my sense. Because there's some part of like our nervous system, I think, that gets like triggered of like, oh, well, okay, well, when is the next thing going to happen? But also it's like having multiple programs open on your computer. It's never as efficient. It's a little glitchy. And I think that's how we are, like, right? I'm trying to maybe solve the fact that I feel like something's going on in my body and I'm not feeling quite right. And then on top of it, maybe my partner just got fired from their job, or I just found out that, my grandchild has, suicidal thoughts. Like you're trying to, right? How do you easily, gracefully show up on multiple planes like that and not let yourself just be kind of overwhelmed? And I don't really have an answer, by the way. If you're like, oh, good, yes, what is the answer to that? The only real answer I have is breath. Breathe. And to make sure that you're actually breathing slow and deep into the lower belly, which is then gets that diaphragmatic breath going. If we're just focusing on breath and we're not breathing deeply, bless you, we're actually more likely to end up in that kind of panicked fight or flight breathing that, as I got to witness just recently in someone dear to me, all of a sudden they're like, my face is tingling, et cetera, which was creating more panic. It was the breathing causing it. So breathing, but remembering some of our tools from yoga, the 3 sighing breaths. Or I want to remind you guys of something, because I think, again, we're all going to have stress on various levels. Maybe you're going on vacation, but being on a plane freaks you out, and God forbid there's turbulence, right? What do? The laugh. The key piece is actually if you get a complete exhale, compression breathing. When you let go of that, because you have to, then you get breathed. The universe, God, oxygen, whatever, fills you without you trying to control it. And you're much more likely to get that abdominal diaphragmatic breath versus you trying to control, get deep breath, and you're shrugging and you're getting that shallow chest breathing. So the next time you find yourself feeling a little like shallow breath or oxygen hungry, which I did, by the way, the other day, I had to use with the smoke. I used an inhaler twice. I probably use mine every 3 months, maybe, because I get exposed to some big mold or something. And I was definitely feeling that, like, wow, it's just a little pressury in here. So a reminder that whatever it might be that's causing it, whether it's physical, mental, or often then some combination, to focus on that deep emptying and see if the filling is different. And you may have to do it like 3 times. Remember to really focus on squeezing, getting your back into the floor, and so on. I remind you that just softening your tongue reduces the amount of anger energy you can be running through your system. So if you are in a situation like I was describing a few moments ago about someone who was kind of verbally attacked by somebody, if you can stay in attention in your body while listening to whatever's happening, then you can do these noticings like, oh, my tongue is squished against the roof of my mouth. I'm clenching my jaw. I'm holding my breath. So the theme actually of this week, our little Dharma talk, is about listening. And when I first decided to do this, it was yesterday when I was sitting on my deck, and I have a little kind of hanging chair, but that allows me to sit very upright. And I just was enjoying so much listening to the sounds of the world. It was early morning when all the birds are still active. The heat hadn't quite happened yet, so I was enjoying it. And I was reminded of the listening meditation that we've sometimes done here. I often do on retreat with people. Ideally, I like doing it outside. And of course, we're here this morning at FLC with the windows closed because it is steamy and we've got the air conditioning going. So I'm going to actually play some nature sounds music that has some Native American flute, so that you have that to tap into, as well as then your own system. So bringing this full circle, this is going to sound weird, but the best way you can actively, truly listen to somebody is to actually be simultaneously listening to your own breath, tuning into it. So maybe you're hearing it. If you're doing a low ujjayi, don't get loud or they're going to think you're being aggressive. But more like listening inward of, am I feeling, where am I feeling fabric moving against my skin? Am I feeling my abdomen contract? Now you might think, I'm not really listening to them because I've got all these body thoughts. But the truth is, being in those body thoughts are what will catch yourself from getting into where you don't really hear people very well. It comes through your filters of fear and anxiousness and your own anger and judgment, right? But that it actually will make you able to hear them more clearly. And so it's a really cool practice. It's called dual pointed focus. Well, actually, I call it that. I don't know if that's an official term. And so another way to practice that during our yoga today, but you can also do it in the world out in the wide there, which is to tune into your body sensations that we were just talking about, but then instead of having your eyes closed and looking towards your third eye, let's say you're walking down the street or you're driving or whatever, you can actually have your eyes open, taking in the world. So you're seeing and you're seeing, dual seeing, right? So we can play with dual listening, dual seeing, and it puts us in a position to be in a healthier place, more integrity with ourselves, and whatever it is that comes at us from the world, which is kind of how it feels. Yeah. Right. If you're concentrating on those things, exactly, you're more present. You're not thinking in the past or in the future. You're not predicting what someone's going to say, which, by the way, I mean, how many do that? Yeah. And you've like got an answer ready, and it might not even be an argumentative thing. It might be a positive thing and you're getting ready to chip in. Oh yeah, I've walked that trail too. It's fabulous. This human thing is so challenging and we're never done. So that is the other thing I would say. If you decide to embark on these practices, which I know you guys basically do all the time, we're always trying to show up better for ourselves and everybody. And that's why I love being in this community. But it's incredibly important to be patient with yourself. You will never get it perfect. You will never be done practicing. And sometimes you're going to be a klutz. And all you can do is, again, be kind to yourself afterwards, own it if you did something kind of not great as a part of that emotional klutziness. Maybe it involves apologizing to somebody or owning something. But that is truly all we get to control. That is all that is in our little choice basket. The rest of it is, well, more shall be revealed. Right?
The phrase I like to remember, be where your feet.
The phrase I like to remember is be where your feet are. Yeah.
It's being present without being.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. That might be a way of inviting people to be present who might find maybe breathing even a little too woo-woo to tap into, or they can't get there in the moment. It's funny because when you said that, be where your feet are, and I kind of did it in the moment, what I found was I breathed. So it was a secondary response to be where your feet are. I was like, yeah, cool. Thank you for that. Yeah. Any other thoughts bubbling up? Just none required. I just love the wisdom of this community. It's really fun. While we are not together on the all next week, basically, and then the following Tuesday, just a reminder to please go to my YouTube channel if you're looking for just a little thing. I mean, I've got the loving kindness meditation is on there, and the playlist meditation Dharma talks. You can find the nerve flossing if you just like want a quick thing to tap into. Some really good, just 10-minute, 20-minute practices. And if you want to kind of go through one of the longer practices, the yoga basics, the yoga flow, those I will say are a nice quality because I recorded them, at home with a better camera and so on, than what I'm using here on my phone. And you can just do part of it and then do part of it the next day too, or do part of it in the evening before bed. Yeah. All right, we're going to be doing some tuning in and listening and kind of playing with that. So I would recommend you find a shape that's comfortable for you, because when the body has stress and kind of striving, it does tell our nervous system that we're not safe or in ease either. So please take a few moments. Maybe you want to start off up on the block under the sacral triangle. Maybe you're wanting to start with something under your bra strap. Maybe you're seated. All of the above is great as long as you feel that you can just settle in, feel supported. So first, I'm going to invite you to intentionally let your attention move outward from your body to the atmosphere in the room, the air conditioning unit, the fan, and just let yourself listen to it. Do you hear it as just a complete constant, or do you hear some undulation? Do you hear sounds from your fellow yogis in the room? Someone just coughed. Does your attention travel to that sound and maybe even name it, cough, and then return your attention to the atmospheric sound again? We're going to add the inner gaze, looking up towards the third eye. And with that, our intention is to listen more deeply into our system, into whatever's happening in the moment, and to become more present. So you might begin to watch the breath and notice where it travels in your system. Where does it touch you? Where do you feel fabric moving against your skin? And then I'm going to invite you to add our light connection, tip of the tongue, roof of the mouth, rest of the tongue soft, jaw soft. This also is an invitation to be present and awake in a very relaxed, non-striving way. Do you feel breath in the front body, back body, side body? Can you invite a sense of breath into that low abdomen, really inviting an expanse there, like you're trying to push out and make a shape of a little loaf of bread right above the pubic bone and between the hip bones? And if you have been experiencing some versions of stress, I named a variety. There's plenty more, of course, that we experience as humans. Whatever your version has been, I invite you to use these next few really deep breaths down into that low belly, picturing that as a massage, working its way through the tissues, the organs, and around, inviting a spacious softness or soft spaciousness. And I wonder if doing so changed the texture of your breath at all. For example, sometimes I end up with just a little bit of like a sighing breath that'll happen, a kind of, and that tells us that we've tapped into our vagus nerve and we've helped calm the fight or flight. Next, asking you to add our ujjayi, great sounding breath, that little contraction in the throat that allows the breath to make that sound as it passes through that throat valve and through the nose, so the mouth is closed. Now, with the atmospheric sound that we have in the room, maybe you can or cannot hear your ujjayi. Tune in and see if you're able to hear it. Can you notice the moment of pause that exists between the turns of the breath? Place that is non-active, non-inhale, non-exhale. Okay, we're going to add another tool that can help us listen inward. And we're going to keep going with the Ujjayi, light connection to the tongue, inner gaze, all those introversion tools. We're going to add plugging of the ears for 3 breaths. I'd like you to notice what that was like. And then for the next few minutes, we're going to simply tune in to the sound experience, the soundscape in the room, which includes the atmospheric sounds of AC and so on, but also now some nature and instrument sounds. And at first, we're simply going to invite our noticing mind. Notice the sounds happening in the music or in the room, and to do the very natural thing that our mind does, which is to name them. You might even be able to notice that some of the sounds seem closer than others. This track was recorded in the forest, and so there are some sounds closer to the actual recording device, and some things that are more at a distance. And for the next few moments, I'd like you to just let your attention kind of travel closer and farther. Make no effort at it, just allow it and maybe notice that it's happening, if it's happening. And now I'm going to ask you to intentionally add your Ujjayi back in if you lost it, or deepen that throat contraction as much as you need to now bring your attention to your body experience, letting that symphony of sound be out there as you very willfully tune into your own musical instrument. A little clue, if you find that very, very difficult, which it's much harder if you're in an airport and not listening to some nice music, right? Depending on what the sounds are out there, they can be very demanding and distracting. I want us to practice here in a less demanding environment. How does mantra perhaps help you? A word or a small grouping of words that help you tune into this experience of dual focus, dual pointed awareness. It might be affirming, I'm inhaling, I'm exhaling. It might be where my body is, be where my feet are. This moment, this body, this breath. Now, if we're actively also trying to listen to someone speaking, then it's useful to find something simpler like inhaling, exhaling, or simply tune into the sensation of breathing while you are listening to words from the outside. One of the most natural things that can happen is that our attention to focus swings from one to the other, the inward landscape, the outward symphony. So just know that that would be very natural. And just choosing to bring your attention back to your internal landscape is very, very powerful and successful. If you get even a moment where you are simultaneously awake to both, cool, good job. And this is a muscle that we can continue to strengthen. I invite you to take just a few more breaths, enjoying that dynamic, that muscular workout. The next time we are inhaling very intentionally, gather a deep inhale, and on the exhale, a sigh. So we're now opening the mouth. And we'll do a few more. Beautiful. Oh, you guys sound great. Please, on these next three, notice the texture of your sigh. Whatever it is, it's perfect. Just listen to it. We're going to begin some engagement of the body. I would invite you, if you're still up on any object of support, to come flat. We're going to plant our feet and place the block between the thighs. If you don't have the version of a block that you wish you had, I'm happy to deliver if we've got extras around. So ideally, throughout our entire yoga practice, we would always let breath initiate movement or engagement. But honestly, I'd probably have to say it every single breath for the majority of us to be able to pull that off. And never going to get it perfect. But today we're going to tune into that effort more than ever. So as you're ready, first, tune into where your feet are. Feel all four corners of the feet. Beautiful. If you haven't already, I encourage you to work your shoulder blades in towards the spine. Maybe let the palms rotate open. Whatever's natural. Don't feel like you have to force it and hold it. And check in with your neck. Invite it to be very loosey-goosey, liberated, as I think of it. Weeble wobble. Just peaceful. Same through the jaw and so on. And we're going to want to stay soft and peaceful through all those areas. Long inhale, and on your exhale, I want you to simply do one thing, which is to squeeze the block with your thighs. Keep holding that squeeze through the exhale. And then on the inhale, soften the squeeze. Keep the legs where they are, the block where it is. Asking of the inhale, is there more? On the exhale, again, just feel your feet into the earth, squeeze the block, and hold the squeeze. Ujjayi, is there more? When there's not, soften and allow yourself to be breathed. Is there more? On the exhale, squeeze. So we're going to continue this for a few more rounds. I'll let you just listen in to your own process and guide with your own mantras. Before we do one more scan, notice if you have taken on tension in your face, jaw. When the next exhale comes, use that same breath to initiate motion, squeeze the block, then raise the hips to bridge pose. And we're going to continue to stay in the pose. If it feels like you're too high, you're feeling neck tension, adjust so that there's ease with the power. And please breathe into this again, observing the breath. Inhale, gap. Exhale, gap. Power and peace. On one long inhale, when it comes, raise your ribs a little higher away from your arms, send your knees away from you, asking, is there more? I hope you get a great breath stretch somewhere new. And then please, on the exhale, descend the ribs one at a time, and we'll bring knees into belly. You can release the block, a nice little hug. Continue with your breath observation. Inhaling slow, deep, and wide, rocking side to side. Good. Bring the knees as tightly into your belly as you can, as you blossom the biggest inhale you can, even though you're really squish, squish, squish. On the exhale, plant the feet, and only when the exhale is there, raise the hips into bridge. We'll do this a couple times. We're going to inhale, descend one rib at a time. As slow as you can, no neck tension. Is there more? On the exhale, knees to belly, seed pose. Emptying, emptying, emptying. Big inhale here. Notice how challenging it is. Choose it anyway. Exhale, plant the feet, raise to bridge. Is there more? Inhale, descending one rib at a time. And then we'll come into seed pose for a full breath for the last time. Emptying and filling in spite of the challenges. Then I'll invite you to plant your feet one more time. This time we'll do bridge with our foot hover. So make sure you're squeezing the imaginary block that will put you into all four corners of the feet and to that deep power, core power of the inner thigh, groin, glute. A deep piece in the neck, face. If you're feeling a neck pull, bring the chin up and back a little bit. Anchoring those upper arms to the straight knees and the cervical spine. Breathing, even though you're working muscularly. And in your own time, release. Bring the knees towards you and then wide for happy baby. So you might be clasping the big toe, the blade of the feet, the ankles. Maybe you've got a strap across the feet, shoulder heads anchor, and enjoy the breath stretch that can come when we really cultivate those last bits of inhale. Continuing to breathe, notice, curious. We invited to move into some nostril. I find two different versions really useful for me. They just give me different stretches. One is that I keep my hand on my big toe and I try to straighten one leg while I bring the other heel in towards the butt. And I get a better calf and hamstring stretch, or different, I should say, when I do this. The other version is I let my hands slide up the back of my leg until I can straighten the leg and point, flex, and roll. And I find that's a whole different stretch also, much needed. Breathing slow, deep and wide, breath continues. Bringing the heels together in butterfly. And then bringing one foot higher up the body and then the other, and letting the other kind of move away and rock you to the outside. This doesn't look great if you've got the strap, so don't feel weird, like, what am I not feeling that? But it gives you some nice mobility through the hips, knees, and these IT bands or side body. It so often is the big tension monger, that quiet, silent partner. All right, we'll plant our feet wide, and we're going to slowly take the right knee down towards the center line of the mat. And I'm going to ask you to pulse here. So I'm going to let my knee come up again, and then down again. Really observing the subtlety, perhaps, but also maybe intensity of what's going on in the hip, leg, so on. Let's switch, and we'll do that same pulsing. Breathing slow, deep, and wide, even though the breath does not necessarily match the shape or the movement here. Is this side different? When our bodies are off kilter or being torqued, that alone can send a kind of message of tension, non-stability, feeling like things aren't right with the world. The next time you're ready to switch, you'll let your right knee go down again. And this time I want you to reach your right arm up and back. Maybe rotate your face away from the arm so that you can play with bringing the arm further towards the center line, getting that deeper stretch through the lat, waistline. Again, you can always just point, flex, and roll anytime. And let's switch. What you got? Tuning into breath. Remember, breath is our change agent, right? Every yoga or even every breath is not going to necessarily fix everything, but it will leave us changed, leave us altered. All right, bringing your arms back to the floor, palms open. Please walk the soles of your feet together in butterfly, letting the knees settle. Butterfly or frog, however you want to think of it. And then as you raise your hips just a little off the floor, and I mean just a little, not high. I'm hoping you'll feel deep inner line work. Nothing in the outer hip area. Feeling outer hips that maybe you need to lower the hips. We're going to be here for about a minute and a half. Listening inward, listening outward, dual pointed focus. This moment, this body, this breath. Another 15 seconds or so. You guys know if this just doesn't feel great, come out. You can always come back in. And coming slowly down, you might keep the feet together there a moment, but it needs to settle with gravity. And then I invite you to bring your right ankle across the left thigh for the reclined pigeon. Maybe it would feel good to just sort of wag that leg gently first. And then raising the left leg front, the right knee as tightly as you can, and send it towards the center line. Send breath to the sensation. If you want to play with other angles, you can bring your hand to your foot. Rolling the head side to side here, inspired would be wonderful, because again, in this hip stretches, you're helping relieve torque from the very lowest part of the spine, the tailbone and coccyx. And when you're rotating your head, you're helping that spiral at the top. Sending in breath as the change agent. And when you feel ready, you'll switch. Good. It's nice to see people, doing some straightening and pulsing, noticing, hey, that would feel good. That's the ultimate yoga practice, is when you let your body sensation tell you where to go. And that's why cultivating deep inner listening is so key. That's where we're going to always get the goods and have a peaceful, powerful practice. Is this side different? When that is complete, invite you to come out and one more time create some version of bridge. Maybe it's bridge with foot hover again. You want to kind of see if things have evened out. Maybe it's coming into your biggest bridge and adding yoga mudra, intertwining the hands underneath. When that's complete, I can come on down, bring knees to belly, and we're going to spinal rock up on the hands and knees for cow cat. I remind you, these times when we're not together, a lot of people are like, oh, I just never figure out what to do on my own with yoga. I'm like, just get up in the morning and do some cow cat. It gets your spinal fluids pumping, organs formed, and gives you a chance again to listen inward. Like, did you over garden yesterday? Or what might have happened? Inhaling, tailbone draws back, heart draws forward. Make sure you're not collapsing the body. It's just a beautiful elongation. Exhaling, slowly tuck the tailbone, let the head hang. As we continue, and add any organic movements that you feel inclined. Sometimes in cat back, you might want to send the ribs one way and look out over your shoulder, or just circling, wagging the head. It's interesting. I'll sort of reference gardening as a place that we might really tighten our neck and shoulders. But what I've noticed most recently is the thing that will tighten me up the most and the fastest is hurrying. Trying to get things done, trying to get somewhere, trying to get beds made. So scan what's happening in your eyebrows, your tongue, your breathing, your ujjayi. Some of these tools that we know are our most efficient entry point to the body experience, but also reflecting to us, am I striving? Am I running tension through my system? Can I relax into this? Okay, let's do just one more, really letting breath initiate motion. So holding cat back till there's no more exhale. Holding cow till there's no more inhale. Then we're going to come into stable table. And we're going to continue to breathe slow, deep, and wide as we continue on, even though we're using some muscles. How do we know we're in stable table? We should be able to clap. Then we're going to simply lift right hand, left foot. Breathe, maybe wobbling a bit. Then slowly extend. We should theoretically be able to lift that hand. And then come back ever so slowly towards your table. Notice the exact moment all four limbs are bearing your weight. With left hand, right knee. Breathe. Extend. Come slowly back. Going to continue with this, letting breath initiate motion. If your wrists are struggling, remember you can go on to fists. Inhaling, extend. Exhaling, come back as slowly as you can. Continuing breath. Is there more? Inhaling, extend. Other side. Keep extending. Is there more length available? And some people are adding that little movement to the outside. You know, if your low back is already sore or anything funky, I would not add that, but it can be a wonderful way to invite broader strength to the body. So you inhale, extend the limbs, take them just a little out to the side, and exhaling, slowly return. Maybe over the next few breaths, you want to play with something different. Maybe you want to hold in the pose and breathe deeply and see if you can light the pressure into the floor again, almost flying. Theoretically, there should be moments where you could just be on one knee. Hopefully remember that you started with right arm, I think you did, and then finishing with left arm. Roll out wrists, do what you need to do, and we'll come into our first downward facing dog together. Slow, deep and wide breath. Nice support of the core that takes us there. If downward dog feels like too much today, on shoulders or anything else, you could hang out in puppy. Basically, it's kind of hands and knees, and then just walk those arms forward. This is a great opportunity to pedal and press one heel at a time to the floor, breathing slow, deep and wide, finding the gap, listening into what's happening in the back body. What would it feel like to hold one heel towards the floor for a full breath? Watching that inhale rise, creating the edge for you. The other side. But truly, in yoga, ideally, you're doing dual pointed focus all the time. Here, you're listening inward to your body and to me. All right, we're going to come all the way to our bellies. If you're hungry for playing chaturanga surfing, go for it. Knees down is a great way to get integrity for that first chaturanga of the day, sometimes forever. Then as you turn your head sideways, perhaps, you get really heavy. Find a deeper listening in with no words to attend to, no body alignment. You're going to be coming in and out of jet airplane. Initially, and I'll invite you to hold at some point. So you're going to want your palms facing the floor, shoulder heads actively circling until they're as far away from the floor and from your ears as they can be. Anchor the pelvis on the inhale, taking flight, reaching forward through the crown, back through the hands. Is there more? Is there more? Exhale, soft. Is there more? Continue. Inhale, initiating motion and flight. And we're going to continue this way for a few more times. It can be challenging to inhale deeply when you're on your belly. But if you're willful about it, it should direct more breath stretch into your back body. It's pretty cool. Would it feel good to hold in flight and reach one arm forward, one arm back, and take a deep breath while you're there? How does being in a side stretch like this affect the breath? And let's switch and explore. Would you like to explore Superman briefly, both arms forward, legs either rooted or flying, your choice, and then release, press back to your child's pose, or if you prefer, resting on your belly. Dual pointed listening. Okay, now to keep your butt as far back as you can in child's pose, to spider walk your intended fingertips forward as far as they can go. So we're creating a really long muscular line. And my hope is that as we inhale, you'll get some pretty fun stretches. Actually, the exhale too. So as you're ready, big inhale. If you need to kind of lift the head and ribs a little, go for it. Exhale, settle. Deep inner listening to notice how the breath and the shape, what is that experience like here? Boy, it feels like a wonderful internal massage. Let's do one more big inhale. Is there more? Can you find an extra little rib somewhere? Exhale, relax. Invitation to bring your hands behind in yoga mudra. If you have your knees really wide in child's pose and that feels awkward, then bring them in a little bit. Palms are facing each other. And you can doing seated, standing, etc. Like, yeah, on your belly is another option, on your knees is an option. What I'd ask you to do is just listen deeply inward to the sense of tension that you might find across the whole collarbone, trap muscles, and very intentionally bring massaging breath to that landscape. Then relax. If you're on your belly, you might windshield wiper your lower legs. If you're in child's pose, you can just enjoy breathing or take your arms first to one side and then the other. And then we're going to be making our way into forearm plank, which you can do from your belly, as you know. You can also do from your knees by just coming onto the forearms, making sure you're coming into a little bit of a cat back, just a little bit, enough that you feel the pelvis tuck and your glutes engage, so that you can safely, strongly step back to your forearm plank. And scanning your mouth for tension, your neck for tension. See if you can engage an imaginary block between thighs that makes you feel stronger. Don't ever hesitate to do a knee down version of this. And then please think about creating a little bit of a longer line. It's like your spine is reaching from your tailbone to the crown, from your heels to the crown. And just see if it settles your body into some new version. Breathe here, enjoy the edge. Some of you may have already come out. Some of you are still enjoying the edge. Great. Breath as a continuous thread. When you feel complete, come out once again, resting posture. So some of us might find it difficult to breathe as long as in our inhale when we are using our muscles, right? And that makes sense because a lot of these muscles wrap around the rib cage and the diaphragm. So that's just understandable and natural. But giving our attention to it, we can sometimes very willfully flare and expand and use the breath muscles even while we're using our strength muscles. So I'm going to invite you to come into forearm plank one more time. If that's too much for you, just focus on breathing right where you are and getting breath into the back. I love it when I look out and everyone looks super peaceful and powerful. That's such a sign of integrity in your practice. Feel complete. Come on out, take all the time in the world, giving yourself any little counter stretches, and then I'll be guiding us into quadricep stretch, which some of you might then take into bow or standing dancer. So quadricep stretch, you might be on your belly, in which case please use your forearm across the front to help you get a hold of that other ankle. You might be laying on your side body, standing. Please try to let your shoulder be drawn back and letting the shoulder blade be drawn in towards the spine. Yes, and breath is our change agent. And yeah, please just notice, are you someone who whenever you focus like on trying to accomplish something, even something as unstressful as this, do you take on unnecessary tension in your lips, jaw, eyebrows, maybe even the breathing? If so, notice you're probably doing that thousands of times a day when you're putting lotion or sunscreen on your face, or you're driving, or you're chopping vegetables, or whatever it might be. Take all the time you'd like before moving to the other side. We're so curious, is this side different? What was it? I thought I missed it. Letting that shoulder blade drawn into the spine, which creates a deeper stretch. It directs breath across some of that architecture through the front. So while this is technically a stretch for the hip and quadricep, we can work with the whole front line. If you would like to do a bow pose before you come out, clasp one ankle, then clasp the other. Well, please take all your time and, child's pose or whatever counter stretch. Then we're going to come to see that we're doing a little massage today. Again, our body is our entry point to our soul and spirit. And in a way, the opposite is true too, right? It's basically a constant dialogue. So sometimes when we're kind of just, we're stressed or we're fatigued or we're fuzzy or we just can't settle, touch can be one of the most useful things, right? We can massage our scalp, massage our hand, all these things that when I massage people often confess, they're like, oh my God, I love putting my head up. Like, oh my God, I didn't know that, wow, that would feel like that, blah, 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 blah. Right? So we're gonna do a little bit of self-massage just as a reminder of how powerful even our own touch to self can be. So if you're sitting deep, with your feet together, I want you to kind of form a deep diamond shape. We're not trying to bring your feet in close. Because we're going to do that little lymph rub. So a reminder, there's some pressure points just above the ankle bone that contract the uterus. So like if someone's pregnant, they shouldn't be doing this. We got me of that in class today. So but I just thought I'd mention it in case you decide to share it with friends. Really important here is I want the power to apply my pressure or massage to come from the core, not the shoulders and the striding. So I'm going to inhale, slow, deep and wide, soft tongue. I'm going to exhale, belly to spine. I'm going to hinge forward a little bit and apply pressure with my thumbs. And I'm going to progressively be moving my way up this line, basically that is just down and in from the bone, right? So there's a soft valley that my thumbs are being welcome to. And if you're doing this right, as in hard enough, you should be feeling some intensity somewhere along the way. And you made your way all the way up by the knee. Go ahead and start again. Once again, just tune in to the texture of your breath and the texture of the tissue that you're talking to. Noticing two sides different. Is there anybody who didn't find anything? I love the like eyebrows and eyes like, oh no. Excellent. So then I like to kind of just take my thumbs from the knee down and sort of touch that chain. Then we're gonna take our legs out and just kind of walk. This is really good for circulation. This time of year in general, people get plenty of activity. But when it's so hot like this, you know, a lot of people are more sedentary and also just feeling more like swollen and kind of, so any of this is really useful. And then just flex the point roll. Remember the ball stretching, right? A tennis ball would be amazing. These are all things you could do even while you're, you know, watching a show or doing whatever you're doing. All right. We're going to do a little more self massage, and this can all just be done laying down. Like primarily, I'm really interested in having you get into the occipital ridge right here, and you can do that either by using your thumbs or if you prefer your fingers. But I find, especially laying down, the thumbs give you the most access. And I really want you to work your way around the whole thing. If you come towards the center, there's then that kind of spacious V, which is where your spine goes up into the brain stem. Which is kind of wild to think about, actually. And then there's all around the base of the ridge, including kind of starting to go up a little behind the ear. And as you are tuning into these sensations, please keep the breath thread going. Slow, deep, and wide, gap between. Is there more? You might be inspired to move the jaw, whether it's lion stretch or just some organic movement side to side. At some point, you might want to swallow. You might want to just like roll out wrists and so on before coming into our next little massage, which will be just to massage that center of the forehead, that kind of third eye area. And then around and out to the temples. And then down below the temples where the cheekbone kind of connects up right into that space in front of the ear. You know, these are areas that often get really congested, literally with like sinus stuff, but also pressure if we've been stressed, a lot of emotional stuff going on. These are very fine areas that can often get kind of inflamed and make us feel even more stressed. And then at some point, one of the things I enjoy is actually pinching my eyebrows. So I take my thumb underneath and my index finger above, and I pinch and kind of roll. I sort of roll it between my thumb and index finger. I'm always amazed by just how good that feels. And again, you might get into your scalp if that feels great and you're not worried about your hairdo. It's the advantage of not having a hairdo. I'm going to ask you to observe if there's anything else that is needing your touch. Sometimes it might just be Hands on abdomen, at a beautiful center, emotional, physical center. And then please explore what would be a restful shape for you as we come into just a little bit more pranayama and then our true yogic rest. So if you need a bolster, if you need something under your knees, I've got extra yoga mats, give me a wave. You could always, if you want to do a meditative sit, you could even move so that the wall is supporting your back. If you're at home, you could lay, but with your lower legs up on the sofa, for example, or an ottoman. I'm being reminded as I'm watching the shadows of the tree through one of these lovely yellow fabric blinds. It's just moving and dancing. That makes me remember the power of lava lamps. But that just like I invited you today to really be in a state of listening meditation, you can also use your other senses. So you could do a visual meditation where instead of just looking at, a tree or a flower and going, oh, that's pretty, you could let yourself continuously gaze upon it as it does whatever it's going to do. And you notice what you're going to notice, but while you're tuned into your own breath. So you can take each one of your senses and create a dual pointed focus of the internal and then whatever that sense is receiving externally. So first, just giving yourself weighty, just giving yourself to gravity, to whatever position, getting weighty and heavy and soft. But always add sighing breaths or whatever it takes to fully get there. And then with a deep sense of listening, I invite you to move into at least one, if you prefer more, rounds of breath blocks. And breath blocks really invite us to and require us to engage in deep listening to notice subtlety. So as you hold out, you'll feel sensations, tensions, tugs, pulls. And your question to yourself is, can I soften around this? Is there more? When you do need to breathe, inhale, hold in, and navigate the same subtlety. And I hold a little while longer, knowing that I can breathe whenever I want. Where do I feel those sensations? And can I seduce them into relaxing even more? You might even hear changes in your heartbeat.
become lightly aware of my voice. And I can circle back to a tool that I brought up right at the beginning of practice, which is to practice being in your breath attention, so internal gaze, while having your eyes open. So if you would let your eyes open to the ceiling or wall or wherever, and for the next few moments, simply practicing seeing the journey of your breath, the breath stretch in the body while the eyes are open. Om Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace. Namaste. Just acknowledge your own good heart, your wise and resilient body. I thank you so much for coming on this journey with me today. I hope it felt relaxing, interesting, and maybe inspiring you to develop that dual-pointed focus more often. Like I said, it can be really profound to practice, like in the grocery store, at the airport. And when you witness somebody being angry, whether it's directed at you or somewhere else, that can be a very powerful place to practice. Reminder, we will not have class the next 2 Tuesdays. So in fact, unless you're coming to Third Mountain this Thursday, you won't be seeing these ones anymore. They're the end of the season. I know. Say your goodbyes. Thank you so much, everybody. Be well. See you soon.